How can law firms demonstrate and track improvements in their post-completion performance, and what indicators show they are moving in the right direction?
Many ways. We tend to focus on requisition rates, which obviously is, as Roger alluded to, I think in part one, that are published, are a metric that anyone can kind of judge you against. Time from completion to AP1 submission, avoidable requisitions. We work very closely with our sort of contacts at the Land Registry. We have monthly meetings which go through requisition based on the workbook that gets produced to identify the top 10 reasons for our requisitions, and we identify those and we work with our teams in-house to sort of identify them, make sure everyone is aware. And you can, on that basis, you can really see the improvements you make with your requisition rate coming down. We've done a lot of work internally, both myself, our Director of Professional Standards, our post-completion team, on bringing our requisition rate down, which comes back to the data, is getting all your ducks in a row, getting all those suite of documents that Joe mentioned earlier correct, so your submissions can be accepted first time. Things like names being spelt incorrectly just shouldn't happen. So we've done a lot of work, and we've been able to see over the last 12 months our requisition rate significantly be reduced, which is great. And because then that goes further, it goes into things like PI insurance, lender panel statuses, all this kind of thing. So we track them on a monthly basis. We report to the board on our post-completion statistics, which I'm not sure every firm does, but we do, because we take our post-completion responsibilities extremely seriously. As I said earlier, I'm never convinced that every conveyancer, and most of them do, but not every conveyancer, treats post-completion with the seriousness that it should be, because as I say, potentially you've already been paid, and as you mentioned earlier, I think maybe in part one, Rob, that most conveyancers don't want to come back to a file. Once it's done, it's done. But post-completion is an extension of a transaction, so it has to be taken seriously.
I was going to say, and yet that is the most important bit, because nobody wants to be thrown off of a lender's panel.
Yeah, 100%. And it is always something that's at the forefront of everybody's mind in our firm, and I presume every other's. Is you get thrown off a lender panel, it has so many other repercussions that you can't even think of just straight away. So really important. It has to be taken seriously.
Okay, thanks. Joe, any feedback on what Simon's just said? Any comments?
Perhaps as an extension, so we're talking a lot about avoiding requisitions, but first of all, and that's great. But actually, chances are that requisitions will still happen, because some of them cannot be avoided. So actually, another metric that potentially could be tracked as a measurable improvement is how you deal with the requisition, how quickly you actually respond to it, and actually using solutions that offer you the visibility of your entire sort of like AP1 transaction journey. So whether we're talking about the case history, so you can see exactly what's happening, or having a management dashboard, or actually having some reporting behind the scenes, which for example, our customers, they actually have access to lots of these tools. They can quite measurably track how long it takes for a requisition to be responded to. They will be able to actually track it to any particular team member. We do actually have an example where one of the firms that we have been working with, all of a sudden they sort of like experience a sudden kind of like spike in cancellations of AP1s, and that usually happens if the requisition hasn't been responded on time. So we were able to actually use some metrics behind the scenes to try to narrow down the cause. And actually, it was a layered picture. So first of all, there was a training need that has naturally evolved, and actually there's a lot of training that can be introduced to improve the process behind the scenes. But also there was a very simple process gap where some people may have been forgetting to tag a particular email address that they should have to receive notifications about requisition. So actually having some reporting behind the scenes helps to remove sort of like big issues by having very small adjustments and small sort of like fixes that they can implement behind the scenes. So there's definitely lots of different things that can be done to actually look at the entire post-completion process holistically.
Okay, thanks. Roger, if you can, do you have any figures or stats that you can share with us on what requisitions bring into the industry with delays and cost, etc.?
Absolutely. So we last looked at this in September of last year, and we went from September to September. And at that point, when we looked at the number of what we call avoidable requisitions, there were 600,000 of them in a year. 600,000 requisitions, which we would consider that if you had taken a process more clearly or just worked through your process in a more clear way, you would have not received as an industry. And if you're receiving that work, you don't want to receive it. There's no need for you to receive it. If you're paying for that work to be done, if you run a firm, that's £20 million of additional cost that the industry is having to pay. And that's your costs as well. That's not the land registry costs. It adds time as well. It adds time. The average one is 21 days. And just to back up what Simon and Joanne have been talking about here, I think it would be irresponsible of me not to say, when you respond to requisitions, respond to all of them, because you would be amazed at the number of people who go, there are 3, and they send a letter back and they only do 2 of them. And guess what that causes? Another requisition. We write back and say, thanks for that, brilliant. Do you remember the other one we wrote to you about? So if you can look at that. And I think the last thing I wanted to bring out, apart from the cost, is just to remember that we ask for requisitions because one of the things the industry wants is a register with integrity, a register that is totally accurate. We sell a lot of the information services that we provide are based on the integrity of the register, and that starts with the conveyancer filling in the data correctly. The land registry, if you add up everything, is looking after or registering trillions, nearly £10 trillion worth of data of money value is on the register for the whole of the UK. Within England and Wales, which is obviously where HM Land Registry looks, it's over £7 trillion worth of that. So that register is a national asset, and the integrity of it is clear. And though we are here discussing requisitions, I'd like to thank all the conveyancers and everybody who works in the conveyancers for realizing that that quality of data, that specific attention to detail, allows us to have such a strong register that the industry trusts. And I think it's great because that industry trust also means that our houses are protected, our friends and our family as well. So though I can talk about it as this £1 trillion asset, I can also know that my children's houses are protected, my parents' houses are protected as well. And I think as a conveyancer and conveyancing firms, they know that their process is to ensure that that trust continues and that trust that the organisation has. So it's very easy to look at a requisition and perhaps get annoyed by it or frustrated by it. But if we take that somewhat elevated view and realise that the value is a register that we can all trust as an industry, from the ministry down to your next door neighbours, I think that's a huge part of what we all do, and something that we all should be very proud of, and something that we should all trust as well. And requisitions are part of the process of ensuring that we can have that pride and that trust in the register.
Okay, thanks, Roger. We've got a couple of minutes left, so just open to all of you. Do you think we're looking at a bright new future then, as far as post-completion work is concerned, going forward over the next few years? Anyone can chip in if they want to.
I think yes, because naturally we will be working a lot on increasing the sort of like accuracy of the data, which will benefit actually the entire profession as a whole. There are a lot of really exciting technological advancements, so definitely exploration of how we can actually stretch the current AI capabilities to actually support the process and automation behind it. So that's definitely a big shift. I think naturally, as part of this process, we're going to start visiting some discussions over some other types of requisitions, and actually for fairness and balance, some requisitions cannot be avoided. And actually, do we need to start having some more in-depth conversation over other common requisitions that actually the blockers are elsewhere, that are not necessarily with conveyancers, probably restrictions and providing evidence of compliance with restrictions is one of those topics that I can see some heads nodding. I think there will be a lot of shift, a lot of positive discussion that will now arise on the back of that, and actually having the land registry to propel that change with putting some deadlines in the future is one of those things that will accelerate the shift, the progress behind it, which is really, really exciting.